Um, and now here, we're gonna be talking a little bit about millennials. Now, from what we understand about millennials, the Google dictionary is person reaching adulthood in the 21st century. Um, so that probably would be one of me. Um, Now, the reason why it made me think about millennials is just the idea of just this concept of hard work. Now, for me, I could be better in my hard work. Definitely could be better in hard work. Um, but it made me think in terms of like, because I always had this fear whenever I was working was that, am I working hard enough? I don't want to be like what older people call those millennials who are just lazy. And like, it's kind of funny because well, actually, I had no idea that they existed. They came to be. They just kind of crept up on us, where people just start slowly introducing the term. But that's on a side note. Well, I mean, I'm already talking about it now. I just didn't let go of the thought I had, and it was just like this concept of hard work. Is that is that millennials don't, they complain, and right now, like one of my jobs, it was I had to work outside, and it was like it was really cold. Um, and I noticed, like for myself, um, like I had this fear, like should I be out here? And I checked my phone, it was like 18 degrees, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to be like those millennials who just quit too quick, quit too fast. At the same time, and that was one of my leading desires to work, especially long, especially during those questionable hours where it was like, should oh yeah, shout out to Nicholas Chung. I am. This is the song that jazz by Nicholas Chung. Just wanted to shout him out, give him his credit. And I'll try to have more, try to just reference the music that's there. Um, but yeah, and so it makes me wonder about the Great Depression, in which perhaps people of my parents' generation, um, are they, because have they had it worse than us? Have they had it better? Now, from what I understand, the Great Depression, regardless, I mean, in retrospect, even past our recession, do they have they had that worse? Because I've heard people died in the Great Depression, people starved to death in the Great Depression. Um, it kind of makes me remind me of Germany, like post World War II, where their what is it, the francs? Is that what the currency is called? It was made worthless. It was dubbed worthless. They were stacking it like it was building blocks, like just stacks of their cash, the currency, because it was worthless. I want to say it was inflated. I think, like I can't remember what their financial situation was going through, but they went through it, and it's kind of ironic because that was what built their. No. I'm sorry. I believe that was World War One. I believe it was World War One, which led them to being an act of desperation, and then Hitler came to power, helped them out, and then encouraged them. Sorry, this is Nicholas Chung. I am audio. Um, and so that just it's so interesting how collectively a people, in which people progress from one state to the other, especially in terms of like the degeneracy in a sense. And I don't mean to disrespect them, but it's like people didn't just listen to Hitler just cause. Like from what I understand, before he became a dictator of sorts, he had to help them with their problems, and I think that's what helped them listen a little better. Um, and then going back to sorry, it was a city, it was a people. I can't remember. I was talking about North Korea. I mean, I was talking about Germany. Oh, I wanted to mention Japan because it was I want to say it was like post World War II, where their mindset developed to be like hyper nationalistic. Um, and I want to say, I don't know, there was this YouTuber. It was, I know I just listened to it. It's not open simplified. It was, I don't know. There was this guy. He had a really good history channel. History. I guess you can call it history channel. But and for graphics, no, Bill Wirtz. It was probably it was Bill Wirtz, but he referenced someone else. It was. Let me see. I guess it was Bill Wirtz. Um, Sorry, give me one moment. Yeah, actually, yeah, it was Bill Wirtz. Um, from what I understand. But it wasn't just him. It was another guy that referenced him. And I can't remember. It's not the right opinion. It was, I can't remember. He was a history professor of support. But but it was like in response. I think there was this notion in Japan that it was like they felt like um their economy is good. I believe during World War I, and then I want to say they stopped getting funded because the war stopped, I believe, and then they felt like they were abandoned, and then they developed like this, like in a sense, this hyper nationalism, and they had this not, I don't want to say arrogance, but it's like they 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 made in themselves like I don't know, it's kind of hard to describe for me. Um, but I just knew there was this concept in which there was like this resentment almost in a collective people switch from that to hypernationalism, and in itself is it was there was benefits. They're now like one of the technologically advanced countries. They're very in a sense of its own country. I want to say self-sufficient, not really in terms of the military, but I want to say in terms of just their economy, they're very self-sufficient. But at the same time, it was kind of switched up because of the World War II, I believe. It got transferred to be a constitution rather than their own form of government. At least I'm thinking. I could be wrong. Other song, "Glorious and Free" by Nicholas Chung under his "I Am" um, album. But so just going back from there to the topic of millennials, to going just back to our older generation, which was it Generation Y, Generation Z? I have no idea. But it made me think about the Great Depression. It was like, okay, these people are the survivors of the Great Depression. Like they say, like, or in the survivors of World War II and probably World War One, but for the most part, World War II, I like to think these are survivors. In a similar sense, it goes to even to slavery with the slave ships. We're survivors. This we weren't the norm. We were the exception to the rule of these harsh conditions. And so they look back at us and they say, well, these guys are some pansies. These are some just very sissy, weak, passive, just beta, whatever, insert weak human being here, where they just had these notions that, man, we were just not tough enough. We are so soft. And an old friend of mine once said, peace makes you weak. I remember that every time I think about these kind of things, because it's like, you're right. Why be strong when you don't need to be, So it just made me think about that, like, why be strong? And so, of course, we're at a point where we're just simply finding ourselves. We're trying to figure out and handle our own dirty laundry and just say, okay, let's understand, let's get to know ourselves. And I think that, especially with these tensions, a lot of things are being, the dirty laundry or the laundry is being aired out now. So now the funk and all that stuff that was tightly packed together that no one smelled is now everywhere. And now people think, man, you just causing division. I'm like, the division was already there. It's just you were comfortable and I was uncomfortable and I didn't say anything, So, and I just mean that from a general, in terms of me as a personified placement of a particular people group versus another. And it's just like the tensions that it was almost like the Thanksgiving dinner where there's political affiliates of either side of the family members, and they're not saying much because it's like, hey, it's cool, it's not really like it's cool, but the people who are a little more content and a little more on the beneficiary side, or just a little more I don't. I guess you could say secure. I guess that's an appropriate word for it. Secure in their position is they don't have a problem. But the other people who may not be as secure, they're irritated, but they're not. They're just trying not to cause a panic, and so Thanksgivings are awkward. So I don't know. I guess that's a good word for it. But it made me think about that. Just like things were not perfect, and they weren't specific necessarily ideal either during that time. They weren't. They were excuse me, people were essentially going through it. They were going through it even during the Great Depression. They were going through it before that during the slavery times and the abolition. They were going through it with the prohibition. Like essentially, like we are this. You guys are the survivors. You know, you guys didn't have it easy, and even though we're at a different place that is generally speaking better, is not appropriately, respectively speaking, it still has its own challenges. And even though we're not dealing with extreme poverty anymore, or just a massively I'm not even sure what you'd call it. Oh, okay. Nicholas Chong, Saturday from the playlist album I Am. And so it just makes me wonder, in terms of, just makes me wonder from the older generation, like, I feel like, yes, we millennials, and I'm not even sure if I fit in there. I guess so. I'm a young adult, 25. We are attempting to find ourselves and trying to find ourselves. And there's a book called Just Do Something. And to me, it was just, I think there's a lot of assumptions. I didn't get past it. I didn't get past the beginning. It was very like condescending, very like, all you guys do is just tinker. And it's just like, what do you expect us to do? There's so much information out here. We don't know what we're trying to be, you know? And then when we're in college, people switch their professions 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And then they waste more time, spend more time in college. And there's just this expectation at a young age that you're supposed to know what you want. And it's like, I don't know. I don't think so. Can you survive without achieving your dreams? Yes, you can. You can go into the job force, go there for a long time, increase your wages, hopefully by what do you call it? Seniority, and just live okay with that, you know. But at the same time, you have those people, those single individuals who are they're doing well for themselves. You know, they are, because like for instance, singers. I'm pretty sure Beyonce's getting paid boatloads, just buku bucks. I would have thought somebody would bring that up, the term. I don't even know where that comes from, but like she's just getting paid glorious amounts. And I'm pretty sure it's not just because she's a singer, but because she's smart, made brands, made business deals. It's not just, you know, not a singular thing. Things are just, I'm pretty sure they expanded, just a lot more diverse than we make them out to be. So I'm pretty sure she sustains her wealth with investments and various goals, you know, short-term goals, long-term goals, situations, business strategies, marketing, reputability, and likeness, PR, whatever, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's what my assumptions are. And so I don't know. Even though things are easier, you know, technologically, we're far more technologically advanced than the days of old. But that comes with its own challenges. Doesn't mean we don't need them. It's just we have more challenges to handle. So, respectively speaking, as a millennial, I suppose there should be more. There should be this idea. Sorry. Respectfully speaking. Sorry. Trying to get that lighting together. Yeah, respectfully speaking. Actually, give me one moment. that light together. Yeah, shout out to Almonte. Almonte Films and Ray Rose Show. He had this video regarding like lighting and just using anything and don't look for the most expensive stuff. Shout out to him because like definitely helped me out. And just trying to integrate my room. He just use natural light, just play around with it and see what you get. And I'm like, that's great. That's definitely been a blessing in itself, a help, a guide of thankfulness and wisdom and stuff like that. So very good stuff. And just letting yourself know that, hey, you can do it. Don't sell yourself short. Be innovative, be creative. And which reminds me of that threshold, which people say in terms of movies, that if you pass that certain threshold and you make just stupid money like Michael Bay, your quality ironically drops. Just because you have a lot of money funding a project doesn't mean that the project is going to be guaranteed good. So, and that reminds me of the standard of living. I believe it says about 70. And of course, that's subjective, but I like to think they say ideally that's where your happiness, annual income, like that's where like the sweet spot is, I guess. So I think that's pretty cool. Pretty interesting. But yeah, as a millennial, we have our own problems, and even it's sad, but I don't think. Wood Grain, Nicholas John, I Am album. I think it's an album. It could be EP. I'm pretty sure it's an album. But I just wish that instead of assuming, and I'm pretty sure when I get older, I'll just assume things too, because I don't. It's sad. It's similar. It made me think of what is his name? MC Jin. He made this song from 1429, something like that, I think. Where he 1455, I can't remember. Where he says in one of his songs is he has one about his father, and he was saying like, he had to pursue hip hop. That was just one of his passions. And he says that parents don't understand their kids. Okay, and this one is Mandarin, Nicholas Chung, I Am album. I keep saying that because I wanted him to get his due respect, his due credit. Good songs. And so I'm just playing this on. Yeah, playing this on his YouTube. But it made me think, like you're right. He says like he couldn't connect. His father didn't understand his passion of hip hop, and it's just ironically, funny thing enough, he became one of the pioneers of Asian Americans, or just Asians period, in hip hop. He became a pioneer. I think I listened to like a battle rap of this dude named Dumbfounded, funny guy. I listened to one of his songs, and I didn't listen to a lot of it, but I saw his battle rap and he's hilarious. But yeah, we just don't connect. The generations are, there's always it always seems to be a generational gap, which kind of makes me wonder, like, should we as a people, especially because it sucks that even me have a gap from people like my mother or people like my grandmother, and that's going to take just individual and hopefully a collective effort one day for us all to be just more aware of the people before us, people who's the generation before us, to just consider them, because we'll be like them one day, someday, unless we die early, and we're going to be the older people that needs taken care of, who need respect and honor and stuff like that. And so it's like to consider what they have to say, and hopefully they can do the same and just listen to us, because I think that's partially what we want to do. We want to be listened, we want to be heard, and I can make assumptions about those, and back in the older days of the older generation, they fought, they were in war. So I'm like, they didn't have any time to develop or mature. They were in war. And so after that, and they tried to live, I think they were just dealing with that. War is a lot. War isn't just like that. war, from what I can understand, is a long process and a very grueling and very time consuming and very costly. And so I don't think people think or worry about changing or trying to mature themselves when they're at war. They're just trying to survive and I guess represent their nation. So sorry, this is gonna bother me a slight bit. Okay, there we go. All right, so that was gonna bother me. Um, so it just made me think like I hope they can get to that point where they're understanding themselves and not just saying oh these pansies are just so they just don't have leather skin anymore, or they just don't have leather, they're lazy and unincorporated, and they just don't know how to have a good work ethic and stuff like that. They just, and I'm like, I'm not gonna assume I understand what you mean, you know, because I'm not from your generation. I probably won't have your work ethic, you know. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure they had a harder work ethic because they needed to have a harder work ethic. We don't need it, I suppose, and at the same time, we're perhaps okay. Nicholas Chung Lucille from the same album, I Am. So it's just like understanding that thought process, respectfully speaking, like, you know, shout out to the older generation, but just having a mutual understanding, and it takes both parties. It's probably going to take one of us to start it and then the other one to continue it, um because you know one person can't just do all the work, you know. So that's all I got. Millennial, um a more deeper concept than we make it out to be from both sides. um Respectfully speaking, we're facing some kind of struggle. We're facing our own struggles, even if the people of the other generation just don't understand it. And that's okay. It just takes some time, some humility, and it's kind of it makes me wonder like, okay, you're older, and that we should give you your due respect for living this long, living longer than most of us, gathering wisdom. But there needs to be a hand in hand humility, um, and then like even if the humility comes from a the older person having volun voluntarily humbling themselves to understand the younger generation. And I think that's why they have those elders react kind of videos, because to show their reaction, like, you know, you got some, they're just a plethora of kind of people. And so it's just definitely going and generalizing the understanding of humans, that we are not just a set niche, or set niche of thing. We are very complex. And that's why life is just, from what I understand, just so unsolvable, because it's like life is just too complex to be singularly described. It just can be. It's just too diverse, too complicated, you know. And diversity is not our biggest issue. It's understanding each other in our diversity respectfully, and that's from race, class, etc., age, ability, and blah 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 blah. Like I learned from a friend of mine who has this ability, or she has this she's in a stance of herself where it's I'm not sure I wonder how I can describe this. Um, this friend of mine has her own thing, you know, where she just can't operate um, as an average individual. But and of course, she's not letting that stop her. Doing plenty of things, doing great things. But one of the things I learned, and I had to humble myself to understand this, is just she says for people who are in these certain places, these certain categories, and I'm being very vague because I'm trying not to reveal anything about her. But she has this disability, and again, not my place to speak about it. I didn't even ask her, but it was just the idea that um, when they're going through it, it's best to just let them do it themselves. And I didn't know that. Like, and I was like, that makes sense. That makes sense. You know. Oh, okay, it's the same thing. It's just a music video, the seal. So it was just it kind of made me wonder if that was talking about BB King because he used to name his guitar Lucille. Um, but I was just kind of not bothered by it, but it was just like um, I'm sorry, I totally lost my place. Um, so what does that mean in terms of? I am so sorry. I have forgotten what I was trying to say. Um, I guess that's about it. Just understanding this. Um, yeah, life is very complicated. Can't say that things are so simple. Um, all right, so if I am a millennial, then this is coming from a millennial. Um, let's just start understanding each other. Um, I get your from an older person's perspective or an elder, respectfully speaking. I understand that your place was different. You have a great work ethic, and there's plenty of things we can learn from the older generation. But I would definitely love to a smidget, a very small percentage of just humility. And again, reminds me of Jordan Peterson. Like when we're asking something from somebody, we ask for the bare minimum. So that's something I do want to ask: a bare minimum of humility. Just be just a little, just a smidget humble. And I don't mean that in sarcasm at all. I mean that like seriously, very literally. It's just be humble to understand and just understand where we are coming from, because we definitely have plenty of things to learn from the older generation, and we need it. I think we need it, because there's times I believe just collectively this generation doesn't know. We don't really have any guidance, we would, but what one thing we won't do is listen to someone who's disrespectful or who dishonors us as they're trying to teach us something, because we have self-value, self-worth, and for us to collectively come as Americans, that's a long-term goal. That's not something that's going to reach my lifetime, maybe not even my kids' lifetime. It's going to be a long goal for us to fully get our historical BS out the way and come together as one people. That's it's too much damage that's been done. If you don't think so, then you probably weren't. You didn't. I don't think that it involved you, but because it involves everybody else or the people and persons involved, it's gonna take them a long time, and we're gonna need your help. So it's like just again, be humble just for a very small amount, in terms of the change. So that's all I got. God bless. Be well. Be loved. You're loved, and do well. Be wise. Be smart. Jesus loves you.